All
I love
right.
to chit.
Welcome to the One Life podcast. And we are here with Cathy Christen. And I'm really excited to get into this because we were just talking about all of the things that she has going on in her life and really all the things that she's had to overcome to get into to get to this place. So Cathy is going to soon be an author. She's going to be releasing a book in the next couple of weeks, which we'll talk a lot about today. She's also a sales champion. She runs one of the top divisions of one of the largest sales organizations. She has one of her own fitness brands. She recently got married in the last couple of years, and so I don't know if we're technically still newlyweds, but I asked that to my wife the other day. I said, we got married eight months ago or so, and it feels like so long. So like we don't consider ourselves newlyweds, but I know that Cathy and she recently got married over the last several years and is living a life that is a masterpiece. And I told her that before we got started. And I'm so thankful for your time and for your willingness to give to the One Life community. So welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here today and just contribute any way that I can. Love what you guys are doing and love the awareness and really a lot of the tools, mindset that you guys share with your community to really help them live their best life. So absolutely love it.
It's really, I'm grateful because we got connected a while back. We were working in the same sales organization at the time. And I think that both of us are really grateful that that organization focuses on those things like personal development and like skill building, because outside of it, there is such a lack of, and there's such a need for it. And this organization, we for so long were helping people, business owners of all, individuals, parents, moms, teachers, really dream plan and live their best life. And now our goal is to kind of turn that attention to the youth. And so it's really cool that someone like you, who's been giving back to high school students and young kids for so long, is now willing to spend some time here. So let's get into it. And you're writing a book, and you guys can go out and get the book in a couple of weeks. You guys can go out and visit her website, cathychristen.com, and find some info. And it's such a great title. I'm gonna butcher it though, so I'll just get the key parts here. And it's Life is a Masterpiece, and it's about designing the life that you love. So I know that for you, you recently had this kind of wake-up call, and you recently had this incident that after all these years of success, after all these years of making tons of money, like finally you feel like that was kind of the wake-up call. So take me through kind of what spawned the book and why you felt to kind of go on this quest to now empower people, and not only that, but really give them kind of the roadmap essentially for creating this masterpiece of a life.
So the book actually came from, I had a great friend, John Vroman, and when he was writing his book, I knew that one day I wanted to have something together to like pass on. And it was something that I was like, oh, one day I'm going to write something. And I had no intention in terms of, and this sounds so bad, impacting people now. But I was like, I want this for my great grandkids. I want them to know what I was all about, and they could be like, oh my gosh, look what Nana used to teach, And so that is something that really excited me. So that's what the book spawned from, because I had been coaching youth, teens, young professionals, people in transition for so many years. And I said, man, I hope that my kids like get this kind of coaching, because I know what it can do for them. And I know what it did for me. But for myself, in terms of like my journey with helping people live their best life, and I'm very big on, days are short. So what are you doing to make them count now? And are you utilizing the gifts and talents that you've been given? I really do believe we all have these incredible superpowers, and we need to be intentional to, one, really identify what they are, right? And then make a choice to actually use them. So for me, it was at 19, like I knew younger, I was always going to do something. I loved giving back. I worked with youth. I worked with ministry. A lot of mission trips, right, growing up when I was younger. And I went to a Christian college. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I was off the deep end, partying, just getting crazy. And I did that in high school too. I got kicked out and, did my things. But it was almost like, so I got into this car accident between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, college, on my drive home from summer camp, like working at it. And I got into this wreck, Hector, that I should have been gone. And it was awful. They had to have jaws of life. I mean, it was an insane accident. And I remember sitting, watching everything happen. And I talk about this in the book, but like, I had no idea if I was alive or dead. I didn't know what happened. But what that did, it was a call to action that said, hey, Kat, stop screwing around. You've been given things and it's time to start using it, because as you saw today, at any day, you could be gone. Doesn't have to do with health. Like health is important, take care of yourself, but like there's other things that happen, right? And you could just be gone. So it was a real big call from like, I felt from my creator saying like, I put you here on this planet and you are wasting your talent and you are wasting the gifts I've given you. Wake up, or your days could be done. And that's where it really, like, I had that call to action, and it was really crazy. I remember talking to my dad, but my sophomore year of college, I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? What major, and switch majors like 3 times. And they said, well, give yourself a dream title. I said, I want to be a maximum potential finder. And that's really where the journey started. And then I was blessed enough to come across, a company that I worked with all through college and continue to support, because I really love what they do for young people in terms of opening eyes to what's possible.
It's crazy, the journey that we take to get here. And you mentioned not realizing it in the moment and not realizing, the impact that it would eventually have. And so for you, can you take us back to kind of your decision-making process about, the routes and the paths that you had after that accident? There's so many times where some people would use that as an excuse to go into addictions, or would use that as an excuse to make excuses, or to use that as a reason why they didn't have to put in all the time and put in all the hard work and put in all the effort that I know you are known for putting in. So what, like take me back to that decision-making process and how you eventually decided that this was going to be what you were going to make your life about.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was something that I really do feel that internally, like I just always enjoyed being able to like help and serve at soup kitchens. And, but then as I got older, I was like, I just want to party and have a good time, but when this happened, I started being more attentive and more intentional as to what I wanted. I never really thought much about what I wanted. I know I wanted to be a good person. I know I wanted to give back, but I never really thought about what my life could look like. It was more, until that time, it was more of, I'll do the best of what I've got, versus here's what I want. How do I get there? And I'd never thought about things like that. So after this happened, it was like, man, people like just kind of showed up in my life. Things showed up that guided me, saying like, what could it be? Because until that point, Hector, my life was, I just don't want to struggle. Right. And that was like the only real goal I had, was I don't want to struggle and I want to be able to give back. But it was never like, here's what I do want. I knew what I didn't want, but I'd never identified what I did want. And so that really, through the people, through companies, through just like different interactions and experiences that I had, all of a sudden my mind started being open to, wow, like we could actually, like all these people, I mean, when you study and you look at some of the most successful people, like they all talk about visualization. They all talk about attracting things. They all talk about really identifying like where they wanted to be, what they wanted to have, who they wanted to be, and then starting to live in that way. And so that really started happening, through my 20s. And I'll tell you, it was a roller coaster. It wasn't like everything was perfect, but I was able to, like, as I started connecting and working with youth, that's where it clicked. Like, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to work with youth, which I'd never identified that prior. But when that happened, I was like, man, like I think about, I meet these 40, 50, 60-year-olds all the time. I work with some of them, I coach them. And as I speak to some of them, I feel like sometimes I'm talking to some of my 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. They're just in an older body. And I started realizing more and more as I met their parents, as I saw people speak, I'm like, holy crap. Like they're just kids that got older, didn't necessarily mature, don't have emotional intelligence. They just just got older. And I was like, holy crap, if we could teach more people early on, the tools and resources in terms of really being able to, deal with rejection, overcome adversity, set goals, perseverance, taking ownership versus blaming, and we can start doing that with our youth, how much better could our world be? How much better trained will those adults be, right? Like as they grow older, what kind of kids will they raise? And could we change, generation to generation through impacting our young people? And I got really passionate about that. And just watching these kids that all of a sudden, when they were in an environment where they were believed in, and they were poured into what was possible. And it was insane. And I'm sure you can relate, just watching some of these people that had just really background, and whether it was like addictions, arrests, getting into trouble, bad family life, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and seeing them with low confidence or just constantly getting into trouble, and see them blossom and wanting to do good and wanting to create something great for themselves and not be another statistic. And it was just such a beautiful thing. And honestly, I just got like hugged, and I'm like, wow, like look at these kids transforming, and what could this do, and what ripples could this create? And it's been pretty amazing to watch some of that already. And I hope there are many more for years to come after I'm gone, but it's pretty awesome.
You mentioned kind of a shift in mindset, which was not just focusing on what you don't want, but really going after what you want. And I've had this at different levels and different degrees, and I think that there's always, you're always kind of relearning lessons at deeper levels. But was there a kind of a moment out of all the accomplishments that you've had? I mean, I was talking to Carolyn, our other co-host, the other day, and we were talking about intros and who's going to intro you. And I was like, it's if you want me to do it, like no problem, because like she has a laundry list of accomplishments that we could get into, from sales championships to fitness stuff to, I mean, there's just the fact that you're publishing a book. So what out of all of those things, what do you feel like exemplifies that idea of really going after what you want? Was there an accomplishment or achievement that you kind of think back to that really stood out, or you kind of like you did something different that made it stand out to you? Can you think of an achievement that was different in that regard?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's a great question. Yeah, I feel like it's been a lot of things stacked, and then there's been moments where I'm like, wow, like, holy moly, I had no idea how many people, through our work, through anything that I dedicated my life to, typically was something I wanted to actually do. I wanted to do meaningful work. And I knew that, from that point forward. So whatever I did, I wanted it to be able to create a ripple effect. So whoever I was speaking to, like, who could they impact? Who could they influence? And so that became very at the forefront. So there was a lot of things that stacked. And I remember at one point, I think it was about 6 years ago, and I was just like trying to figure out, like, am I still doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And it really, for me, my life came down to like impact, legacy, and it was really in alignment with that. So I don't know that I can identify a specific thing. I will say, like, this book for me is really bringing that to life on another level. Because like one of my great friends and mentors, John Vroman, who's Front Row Foundation founder, he had said, well, I know you're going to write this, and you need to, because it's so great. The teachings that are there, and the teachings that you were taught that's helped you design this life. And he said, but why are you going to wait? Why not do it now? Like, how many more people could be impacted now? And so I feel like the book has really taken like my, I guess, intentionality and life mission to another level, where I was like, man, I didn't even think about that. And I think so many people out there have like these amazing thoughts, ideas. They have incredible stories that they've been through that they keep to themselves, because they might think like, oh, well, I'm just another person. There's a lot of people out there doing all this, or who am I to speak on this or say this? And they keep things bottled inside, where like what they have could literally change the world, or at least someone's world, And I really realized that this past year, even though for so long, like almost 2 decades, I've been talking about, how to really maximize your potential and really utilize what you've been given. I realized it for myself. I was really challenged, like, holy crap, like I'm not where I need to be. My next step is like hardcore social media. but I'm like, man, I need to get out there and spread the word. And I really challenge anyone listening to this, like maybe you have an idea, maybe you've had something that's pulled at you, but it's easy to like discourage yourself. And by the way, writing this book, I could not think, and my husband was like, I have never seen you like this. I could not identify a time in the past like decade and a half that I had been so self-conscious, had so much self-doubt. Like it's been a while. And I got in a nice comfort zone of my jam and teaching and really became an expert in what I did. But like I had not been challenged, like, and I was like in tears and I'd be writing. I'm like, why am I even taking time to do this? Like there are so many incredible people in the personal development world. Like who am I to do this? And I caught myself going through it. I'm like, what are you saying? I'm like, you have to do this. And it's what I tell people all the time. And stepping out there and putting it, and you just never know. And it's really cool when you study, again, a lot of successful people, because many of them, it's the same thing. They were like, I just felt like I needed to do this and I just did it. I had no idea where it would go. And just like seeing, how that evolved. And so I hope that, anyone who's watching, if there's something there, like just do it. And when all that self-doubt and all those questions come into play, just shut it up and be like, no, this is happening. Because you have something good, so I kind of got sidetracked there, but hopefully that kind of answered. I don't know, you can ask me something else.
I think it just shows that no matter the level of success, I mean, there's always that level, and we kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the question, was that you're always kind of relearning these lessons, in different capacities. And I think that, just in going through that experience of going from where your persona, as big as it can get in the organization or within the company, is still kind of under this dome, whereas all of a sudden you go out to social media and there's a different kind of, I don't know if it's voyeurism or there's a transparency, or I think in the old
Gary out there.
Yeah, like you're out there for sure. Everyone's, yeah.
I can get in front of thousands of people and I'm like, heck yeah, let's go. No, like a little nervous. Nope, so excited to get out there. Put me in front of a computer by myself to speak and I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary.
It's definitely a transition for sure. And what's interesting is I feel more confident in front of doing Facebook Lives simply because all of the live trainings that we had done, I mean, speaking in front of people had become second nature, but all of a sudden it's a recorded video and I procrastinate and nobody's watching except me, but all of a sudden it's just that same kind of thing where you're relearning the lessons. So let's get into, one question that I want to have, I want to get into some of the strategies in the book, because I think that it's great that it seems like a very tactical kind of book. I'm curious if your success, because when I met you, you were already, Cathy, who is like, oh, this is Cathy, everybody knows Cathy. She's a beast. She's a sales champion. She's a huge leader. I mean, she's an awesome, I had already came in and you were, one of the greats, but I'm curious for you if it was a progression, if you had always kicked ass in your life, or how you said it kind of stacked on top of each other. So what was that stacking process like as you were having?
Definitely not always great. That's for sure. There's a learning process, and I think at first it was giving myself grace when I went to a new level or trying something new, because especially there's some things I always felt like, oh, if I do anything, I can do really well at it. And I was challenged. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. I'd never done sales before. Sales I'd done was I worked at Macy's and run things up for people. I waited tables, but I'd never worked in direct sales, belly to belly, actually making calls, setting appointments. I'd never done that. And it was really scary when I started that. And then I got really good at that. And then I went out to teach others and manage. I was awful, Hector, when I started. I was absolutely awful. And because it was a new dynamic. I had to learn how to coach and inspire others who thought differently than I did, right? Who had different goals. They were just wired in other ways. And so now I had to learn, holy crap, there's all these different people. I understood me, and anyone who was like me, I could coach them, but I wasn't really good at connecting with different types of people. So again, that was a new lesson, and it kept going. And so every time that you stretch yourself, there are new lessons, and it's always going to feel a little bit uncomfortable at first. It's a little bit weird, and it should be, because it's something new that you're doing. Anytime you do anything new, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable, but the more and more you do it through repetition, you get really comfortable, you get really confident, and then you master it, right? So that definitely has happened over and over through the years. And could you repeat the other part of your question? I apologize, I glossed there.
No, I think that was well, I guess that you kind of answered it in the sense that it didn't happen all at once, and that it was kind of this accumulation that you had mentioned about going from level to level to level and keeping and moving forward. So you talked about in the book there are all of the lessons that have now allowed you to create this incredible life where you're able to do what you love. You know, you have this great businesses. We mentioned that you have a thriving, relationship. So what were some of the hallmarks? What are some of the key lessons? Or let's kind of get into some of the strategies that are in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing, so the book is split up actually into 3 different sections. The first one is your vision. And I think it's that right there, that was a thing for me that I actually didn't really identify until about 2007. So it was only about 11 years ago. So at first I knew, like, I want to do good. I want to do more. I set goals. I learned how to set goals, break them down. But I set goals that I felt were kind of possible for me. I never thought about, like, bigger. I grew up lower income, and so there was definitely this part of me that's like, well, I can do this, but like that stuff, that's for people like them. And that was still there. And even saying, like, out loud, like, I didn't say out loud, like, I want to be a millionaire, until I was in my late 20s or early 30s. Like, I always felt really bad for saying that because of where I grew up from. And so, the first thing, I remember going to an event in 2007 where we were challenged. There's an author, speaker, he's very involved in the Catholic community, Matthew Kelly, and he spoke and he talked about one of his books called The Dream Manager, which is very simple. But as I went through it, I was like, man, this makes so much sense. And I started writing, and I'd never, like, sat down and wrote about all the different things that would be cool to do because I felt bad. I felt like growing up, with what I had, if I wanted more, I didn't appreciate what I had. Does that make sense? So there was this, like, you shouldn't want more things, you should be happy with what you have. And that kept, like, resounding in the back. And so when I went to this event, all of a sudden it was this, like, no, like, God, the universe, whatever you believe in, has created this beautiful world that has so much in it that you could go experience, see, and I want to do that, and I want to be able to share that with other people, and I want to help other people have these experiences. So I remember sitting down, and it was for the first time I thought about, okay, what do I want? So here's the thing. A lot of people identify what they want, but then they're like, man, that would be cool. But there's nothing in their mind says they could do it, or they don't have a plan as to how it's going to get done. So maybe they have these really great things lined up, but there's nothing that's really pulling them. And I think that before you have a plan, you have to really identify why. Why do you want it? Like, I want this, but, like, why? Because if it doesn't really excite you that much, when it gets tough, which, by the way, anything that you're working towards that you're really excited about will have its moments where it gets tough. And if you don't have that reason why you want that so bad, how it's serving you, and the deeper rooted that why is for you, the more meaningful it is for you, the more it'll really help you take action, right? It'll create a fire that allows you to, like, be like, all right, I got to get this done, So really understanding, what's possible, what do you want, why you want it, and taking time to really identify that. And once you've identified that, then it's really looking at, and I walk through in the second part of the book, it's called your master plan. And I talk about, first off, what are your non-negotiables, right? Because there's a lot of things in my dreams list right now and in my dreams book that I'm like, oh my God, I would love to do all these things. And I have things with time frames, and I have things that, but I have the would be nice. And then I have the, this is a non-negotiable. This is happening. And so I think it's important to also identify that and prioritize that, because sometimes people get bogged down with like things that might not be the most important to them. And then later on, they're like, man, I spent all this time working on this where that wasn't really in alignment. And that wasn't what was most important to me, you know? So that's why knowing why you want certain goals are important, because then you can identify, so which are my non-negotiables? And once you have those, then you can actually sit down and go, okay, so what time frame, you know, and giving it time frames and breaking it down and saying, okay, I want to do this in the next 3 years. I want to buy this home, or I want to start this business in the next year. What's it going to take? And so knowing specifics of like how much money you're going to need to put down to start this, to buy the space or lease it, to be able to start that business, or, you know, go take your family on that vacation. And what I found is that sometimes these goals seem really big, right? I had a friend someone that they knew that I coached him to start his business. He was a personal trainer. He said, I really want to start. I want to have a facility. I want to do stuff. He's like, that'd be really cool. I want to do that one day. And I said, one day? Well, why not day? And he's like, well, I mean, I need money. And I said, well, why don't you start today? You know, you might not open it, but like, what actions can you take today to start getting you there? And he was like, oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, let's sit down and look at it. And so we sat down and made a plan and identified what exactly he needed. And he needed like over $10,000 to do what he wanted to do. I said, okay, cool, let's break it down. And I said, depending if you want to do it in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and we broke that down of how much money he would need. And when it was all said and done, you know, it was like, dude, go to one less happy hour per week and save up the money and you'll have it in 3 years. Like, cut out this and this, and you'll have it in 2 years. Like, live like this and look what happens, and you can have this in 1 year. And he got it done so much quicker than he expected. And it was just putting it on paper where it was like, wow, this is a reality, you know? Another lady was like, I want to go on this vacation, my dream vacation in Europe, but it's going to cost like $7,000 to take my family. And by the way, that number seems so big. But when we broke it down with the timeline, it was like, put aside $50 a week from your paycheck, $50 a week. And when you get these bonuses, put away a bigger chunk, and then boom. So the second part of the book really talks about that, because a lot of people have these great dreams and they do mean a lot to them. But then they're like, oh, I don't know how I'll ever get it done. So whether you work with somebody, you hire a coach, a company, that's something that I personally really enjoy doing, sitting down and say, okay, let's create time frames. Let's decide on your action steps. Let's schedule it. When is this actually going to happen? Because another thing I found, and I found this from coaching early on with the students, was they had this like schedule. We made a plan, you know, but you have to actually commit to doing it, you know? So I think there's value in seeing two sides. One, why is it so exciting? Why do I want this? And like really seeing how great it's going to be to make you want to do it. But also looking at the flip side and saying, if I don't do this, if I don't take action, where will things be 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now? Am I okay with that? And if the answer is no, then it's like, then freaking got to work, you know, like start taking action on the plans that you made, but keeping that at the forefront. So that's really big. And then the third part of the book goes into like really ensuring your success and talks about really creating the right conditions, because we do need the right environment. You know, if you were like, oh, I really want to grow, a certain type of flower, you know, but you're like in the desert and it doesn't grow there, that's not going to happen. And so in our lives, we really have to create an environment that fosters the growth of what we want to happen. So many times people are trying to grow something or grow themselves in an environment that does not support that. And so it's really important to identify that. So that you can put yourself in the right environment, you know, create the right habits, morning rituals, having the right people surround you, and then having, I'm really big on having processes for when shit hits the fan. So whenever either you have certain negative thoughts or things happen, you know, we all have the voices in our head and those like inner dialogues, inner recordings from early on that have been programmed within us. And that when we have those self-doubt, those things pop up, that we go, and we have a process. So one of my processes when I get upset is to stop and I take a very deep breath and I go, why am I upset right now? Like that's a process when I get upset, because I used to be very reactive and high rate and be like, what the fuck? And that was a process I created about a decade ago that really helped me be way more calm. So it was like, why am I upset right now? Like, what's really upsetting me right now? Because sometimes what you're upset about is something that got triggered from your past. It has nothing to do with that person. And sometimes that person really did piss you off. I can't hear you, Hector.
For me, sometimes I was just hungry. When I was running an office, I was just, I did that same thing, and I said,
hungry.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not the receptionist's fault. I just haven't eaten. So I'm gonna go get a Snickers bar, and then we'll come back and we'll have this conversation.
Oh yeah, I can definitely relate to that. My guys had a timer of when to feed me so that hangry Cathy didn't come out.
We should have had that, is what we should have. Yeah, they started, now that I think about it, towards the end of my run, they started just bringing me food, and I think I thought they were just being nice, but I think it was in their own self-interest.
They didn't want hangry Hector.
This is, I love the framework of it. And when I, we've both spent time in these kind of spaces going through a lot of development, and, I don't know who said it, but I think it was actually Hal, who I heard in a talk one time, said that like the worst words that you could ever say is like, I already know that, or whatever it is. Well, these are such fundamentals that I think, it would be like some people might go, well, duh, Cathy, that's in every other single book, and to that I would say, well, duh, yes, exactly, because it's necessary. But what I really love is you kind of talk about the realities of doing this stuff. You kind of make it. I think in doing the work that we do, it's very much not a theory, and it's very much we see the practicality of it, or we see it in real life, and something like having contingency plans, or something like really structuring your habits based around your vision, I think is so necessary. Wow, thank you so much. We've gone on here for a little while, so I want to thank everybody who has made it this far. Cathy, yeah. Is there any other what's your favorite part of the book? When you think back to like it's gonna be, I'm sure you mentioned it was a process. It was a challenging process, I'm sure. When you look back into it, what's either your favorite part of the book, or the thing that you're most excited about? Something that you think readers would really they need a reason that they need to go check it out.
Well, one, I feel it's very simple to read, and that's something that a lot of feedback. They've been like, it's so like, I 10 different people were like, I just couldn't put it down. Like, it was like we're having a conversation. And so it's very conversational. There's a lot of stories in there that I think are very relatable, and to all ages. When I wrote it at first, I wrote it with the intention of young professionals, young people in transition, right? And whether it was like high school to college into career, transitioning from careers. And that was more of my mentality as I was writing the book. And what I found through people who have already read it and pre-read it, that they've said, oh my gosh, like I took this and this, this helped me with that. And I would say that there are a lot of great reminders through stories and simple things that go a long way. And I believe that in my book, what makes it special is the simplicity of complex ideas and just like easy ways. And they're simple, but it's still hard to be disciplined and do it, right? So the work isn't hard. It just takes. It's hard to have the discipline to do it, but it's very simple. Where it really can, like in 1 year, and I've seen it happen over and over and over, and a lot of client stories are in there as well, just seeing people absolutely transform their lives. And so whether it's for you, or it's for you to have a framework where you can help others, if you're a teacher, if you're an educator, if you have a family, in any kind of leadership position, or even with your business. And I think about the power of if you're a business owner, and you can use this very simple framework that anybody who's never heard self-development can use, and you're going over this and teaching them, there's actually a design exercises throughout the book. So in each chapter, there's parts where it says like pause and reflect, and there's things to think about and jot down. And at the end, there's a design exercise at every chapter. And I've had several business owners already who have said, hey, we have a sales meeting for our realty team every week. I'm going to incorporate this and do like an exercise each week with them. And I said, it's a beautiful thing because a lot of people don't get exposed to that. And I'm so grateful for my first sales company and for them exposing me to personal growth and development, and to really understanding that I was in control of creating what I wanted to happen. I didn't need to just collect whatever came my way and do the best with it, but I could actually decide what I wanted and go out and take the steps to create that. And this book really walks through that, as well as owning the ugly parts and understanding that it's part of our, I look at life like think about it as a puzzle, right? And so this puzzle is this like masterpiece that is your life. The picture's a masterpiece that's your life, but it unfolds piece at a time. And sometimes there's a piece of our puzzle and we have no idea where the hell it goes. You're like, does this even belong here? You know, because maybe you know that end portrait is this like gorgeous, gorgeous like rainforest. And I always share this because the vision I had once of this like beautiful rainbow, waterfall, green, colors, flowers everywhere. And you have this piece and you're like, what the hell? And it's like this weird, yucky brown color. And you're like, where the hell does it even go in this vibrant, gorgeous picture? But it's like the scum on the rock that's in the bottom of the waterfall. And if that wasn't there, like something would be missing. It would lose some of its beauty. And it's pretty amazing that, you know, like Carolyn, and I mean, there's so many people that I've met recently and people that I've known forever, and for myself, that some of the ugliest times of our lives they've been part of something that became so vibrant, you know, and it really charged something within us to do something beautiful in this world and make our life even more beautiful than it already was. So I really talk about that in there as well. And so there's a couple cool things and analogies that I feel really hit home, and I would encourage people and anyone who's in any leadership or a young person who's really looking to you know, transform to check it out.
The book is called Life as a Masterpiece, Design and Live a Life You Love Today. And I am so grateful that you decided to write this book, because I know that there's so much magic that's locked up in you, and I'm glad that you've been able to get it onto, you know, into some pages. Your grandkids will benefit from it, as I'm sure tons of other people will. The best place to go is to cathychristen.com, correct?
Yes.
And go check it out. The book is coming out in a couple of weeks, right? Do we have an exact date?
Indeed. Tuesday, November 13th.
Tuesday, November 13th. I bet it was like one of the craziest push periods you've like ever done. I would imagine. For sure. Well, congratulations on that. I know that that is a process that is not easy, and so I want to commend you for that.
It's been great so far, hearing the feedback, and has made that journey so worth it, because I literally wanted to like punch a wall multiple times. I wanted to quit and throw it out the window. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. So now that it's out there and I've been hearing, I'm so grateful I went through that process. And so I'd say that to share again, you know, like sometimes anytime we're going after something new, or you're going on a big adventure, there is going to be that messy, hard part. But know that, you know, I really do believe that that's almost like we're being tested to see if we deserve like the beauty that's on the other side. And so take that as, you know, that pressure that's like creating that diamond, or, you know, however you want to look at it. But there's so many beautiful ways that great things come from it, from the other side. I'm glad I'm on the other side now of it being complete. I'm excited for to share that with the world. So, thank you, Hector.
This is great. Well, thank you again for the time. And guys, cathychristen.com. That's Cathy with a C, and Christen, Christen. We'll link all that up in all the electronic places and all the social medias. Thanks again, Cathy. This was great.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Hector. And thank you, One Life community.